At this point, I'm beginning to run into another problem of tradition. Here are the four synoptic gospels. The primary difference between the four is that Mark and Markion have no infancy narrative, and while all four have a passion narrative, it's highly debatable whether or not Mark has a resurrection story. In my last video, I located the Gospel of James. This gospel explains the infancy narratives and the differences between the stories. Even though Luke and Matthew are quite different from each other, the two accounts are actually consistent in the Gospel of James account. Both stories are a part of a single narrative in James. This excludes the genealogy and the manger story. The most likely explanation is that James has priority over Luke and Matthew, and that Matthew was the first to introduce a genealogy, but that's still not quite clear. Taking a very similar approach and applying it to the Passion narrative, we find that there are all kinds of inconsistencies between the four Gospels. This is generally problematic, and no one seems to have a good answer for the inconsistencies. However, I've been running through the Gospel of Peter. The Gospel of Peter is a single passion-resurrection narrative, and once again we have a document that could potentially produce all four synoptic stories. One of the curious things about Peter versus the synoptics is that while all the synoptics have problems between the four accounts, most of those inconsistent objects are in the Gospel of Peter, and they're told in a single narrative, and everything is consistent. Again, the most likely explanation is that the Gospel of Peter has priority over the Synoptic Gospels, and that the four authors compressed the narrative down into smaller stories, each borrowing different parts of the Gospel of Peter. Before going through Justin Martyr, I had not considered the Gospel of Peter, and unfortunately, because of this sharp difference between the Synoptics, I probably will have to go through Justin Martyr again. I want to make sure that Markion, Matthew, and Mark is consistent here. If Justin has all the narratives, then he potentially has the Gospel of Peter, and that could affect the synoptic Gospels he has. There are quite a few differences between Markion, Matthew, and Luke, and Markion does appear to be existent in other ways in Justin Martyr, but the big question here is Mark or Matthew. At this point, I'm at a pause moment again. I would like to be as specific as possible about what Justin Martyr has and does not have. If Peter's passion narrative is in Justin Martyr, it could limit the other sources. It may be chasing a dead end, but the Gospel of Peter feels suspiciously like a text with priority over the synoptics.